Hello YouTube, this is Rapscallion. I'm here today with Iron Shooter, aka Monochrome Sauce. Say hello, Iron.
Hello.
And we finally have our super smelter to show you. We're calling this thing the Khaos Forge, and it is the 192 furnace array that I have teased out in some of my last couple of videos. Iron has been a big part of its design and helping refine this thing over the last several months. We finally got it to a good spot where we're comfortable with its operation. There's still a few things that we need to work out with it, but overall it does what it's supposed to do. We are recording this from the Chaos Tech creative server. Chaos Tech is one of the technical SMPs that I play on, as well as Iron, and we're just in one of the creative areas here to showcase this smelter, and we'll give a quick explanation and showcase of how this thing works, and at the end of it we'll provide a Lightmatica file for you if you so choose to build this same thing in your world. So let's get at it and we'll show this thing in operation. Okay, so Iron just popped in a full shulker box of cobblestone. So it's probably important to note that this thing only takes in full shulkers for items to be smelted and full shulkers for its fuel system. Fuel system is either logs or planks, and it's because we're doing a 1.5 fuel to smelt ratio for this. It divides nicely into the total number of items within a shulker box, as well as the total number of furnaces within the array here. So that's why we're choosing to do this. That way there's no wasted fuel in the process. So the shulker box will go into an unloader here, and this is a modified version of Samos the Sage's unloader that he has shown in some of his videos. This unloader sits right over top of a hopper minecart, which then dispenses the items across the 192 furnace array. It's it's done on a clock so that the items can be delivered at the right times for the furnace to swap out those items. So we'll see in this furnace that I'm looking at, this item finished, next item came in the same tick, and we delivered some more fuel. What's the time to smelt a single item, Iron?
The time to smelt a single item is exactly 10 seconds. So, so it's the same as 100 redstone ticks or 200 game ticks.
And that's what this clock is doing at the back here. So this is a modified version of my quad hopper um, timer or counter, and it's being used with a strange little AND gate here to say that if there's still items available to be delivered, reset the clock and then send out the hopper minecart. Is that a good explanation?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So you'll see here that the shulker that Iron had loaded in has been completed. You hear some clapping down here from this iron trapdoor, and this is our 8-speed loader, which is replacing the smelted items now into its shulker box, and it's going to pop it back up this dropper elevator and return those items back into our output. We should hear a ding and the light come on when it's completed, but really overall, this is your user interface up here. You have your output for everything that's been smelted, your input for your shulkers, input for fuel, and you have your output for your empty fuel shulkers as well. So everything is done from this area here. And there, we've got our shulker box returned. I'm just gonna copy and paste it to show you. And there is our full box of smelted goods. So this thing can take in multiple shulker boxes at once, and it'll process one right after the other. It's probably important to note that Um, you want to avoid putting in mixed box types um, all in the same go because it can have an impact on the items as they're being dispensed from some of these droppers. So, it could have an impact on the loader itself, and you'll probably end up losing some items to timeout as well. So try and keep it to one item type as you're loading it, or put a bit of a pause in between some of the boxes to try and make sure that you don't break the system. This thing will also lock as well. Iron, can you talk about the locking system here?
Okay, so the locking system here lo- locks locks both hoppers and the dispenser to not put a new shulker but not stop the current shulker. The locking will only trigger when there are no extra shulkers left. In this bottom dropper, as Raps will show here, this one, and um, and in the hopper below it.
Right, which is behind this block here. So I'm just going to go into spectator real quick because I don't think, oh, that didn't even go into spectator.
F3 plus N.
How come I can't go into spectator? Oh, there we go. That was strange. All right, this hopper here. So we've got one item in that hopper right now, and we've got, I think, 6 in here. Yeah, so it's reading from both hopper and dropper, just to show that, as long as we have enough items buffered, it'll be unlocked.
Oh, and I wanted to say something about the UI. Here it can be changed, obviously, which which this is currently can only hold 54 items in one chest, which is not that much actually. So so if you have a lot to smelt, you may want to like expand it upwards and put multiple chests, one above the other using hoppers.
And it all depends on the volume of what you want to smelt. This thing can process quite a few items in just a single module like this. So, if you want to put box after box after box of items to smelt, it's a pretty effective system. So if you needed to collect more than 54 items being returned, absolutely add a couple more chests to the output boxes. I would say on both sides probably. I lost my creative and I can't seem to get it back here now, which is really strange. There we go. It finally decided it wanted to come back.
You need to use
F3,
uh,
F4, I did that and then it just kind of hovered there and didn't do anything.
you
Anyways,
need to keep pressing F4.
so the process time per box, Aaron, do you want to talk about how long it takes to do a full shulker?
Okay, so a full shulker takes uh, roughly 1 minute and 30 seconds, but the very first shulker will take will add a wind up time of another 1 minute and 30 seconds, which I would like to show in this equation.
Okay.
Which I put a small sign here to show it.
Oh, on the side.
X, yeah, X is the number of boxes, and take into account this equation only works on positive numbers and whole numbers.
Okay, there you go.
which shows its speed is roughly 8 times hopper speed, as also indicated by the loader being fast enough to process them on time. and this loader is exactly 8 times hopper speed.
Yeah, and we designed this loader specifically for this smelter as well too. So it works in principle for other purposes, but because the box break is actually tied to the cycle of the smelter, you would need another system to trigger the box break itself. So it's actually um, a pretty good setup for 8-speed loading, but would need to be tweaked a bit further if you wanted to use it in other circumstances. So we're
Um,
at three minutes for the first box and a minute and a half for each subsequent box within that same cycle.
yes, that's accurate. The the extra time is added due to delay from the circuitry, which we try to lower as much as possible, and also keep it as lag friendly as possible. As you can see here, we are also locking the hoppers. It's almost 100% hopper locked, which reduces a lot of lag while it's inactive.
Yeah, and this is a pretty sweet system you designed to actually lock this. The layout for the furnaces, I think, looks great because you're powering the furnace itself, so you're locking the hopper feeding the smelts, the hopper feeding the fuel, and the hopper dispensing into the dropper. So all the way along here, each of these hoppers is locked until the system starts processing. Let's run it again, and
And
I'm gonna put in 3 shulkers so we can try and see how some of this works in operation, and how it switches boxes and how it locks and unlocks. So you'll see here.
and and another quirk
There
of
we
the
go.
system is that in the middle here you can actually walk and try to debug if any problems occur. And you also have a cake stairway which also works in the reverse direction.
Yeah, so this is a directional ladder up and down. So if you wanted to get here from your user interface, you may have to swap out for something different. But yeah, so all of this is accessible through the center section here. If you need to troubleshoot if something breaks, or if a mob gets onto your system and dies somehow, um, you don't want like zombie rotten flesh falling in here anywhere. So
Mm,
you could always follow through.
on the topic of mobs, in 1.14 below, you need to make sure this place is lighted up as mobs can spawn on rails.
Yes.
So so they can block the carts while they're going, which will break the system.
So here's a quick shot of the operation. Oh, and good to note too that for each of these mine carts that's running through, you need to block the last 2 slots with a non-stackable item. We use shovels, wooden shovels, because it's the cheapest option. Um, but you don't want to allow any other items in past 3 stacks for each of these hopper mine carts. So these shovels should not get dropped into any of the furnaces through operation, and it's the same setup for the fuel carts as well. So if I look at the fuel carts, we've got the 2 shovels in the last slots. And it's very few hopper minecarts overall for the number of furnaces that we're running, right? Like it's 4 hopper minecarts for the items to smelt, and it's 3 hopper minecarts for fuel. And these are locked most of the time as well too, as they're sitting in the queue.
Yeah, 5 of them are always locked, and I mean it always.
So from a lag
So,
lag efficiency perspective, we're actually doing pretty well here. I think so anyway.
well, and something I want to add about 1.14 and above, these dropper elevators aren't a must. You can use a water stream, like a bubble elevator. You can use them to transport the items over here, which will be lag friendlier than dropper elevators. and also much easier to set up.
These command blocks here have nothing to do with the operation of the system. This is just for our own troubleshooting purposes to clear the furnaces and the droppers, so that if we need to test and run a new cycle, we don't have to manually copy, paste, or pull items out of the furnaces or droppers. And I think we made this 1.12 compatible as is, did we not? Or are these note blocks?
Yes, it is 1.12 compatible because these node blocks are only used as indication when an item comes out. So
Perfect.
so so it's very nice and user friendly.
So we already have another box up here. That was the first box finished processing.
As well as about the items, um, all of the hoppers have signs of them that say how many items they should have when you finish building it,
Right.
like in the timer below, if perhaps will come to me. Like over here, in the default state of the system, when you just built it, it should have 22 items in the hopper.
Yeah, and that's marked on all of those around here. So 96 items in here, 0 items in this one. Same with, we have a secondary counter below that it's marked. This one counts the number of cycles to dispense fuel, and
Yeah.
we're doing it every 1.5
Every,
cycles.
well, not exactly 1.5. It's theoretically 1.5, but
Right,
in practice it does 2 and then 1.
right. Because we're taking 2 signals off of every count here.
Mm-hmm.
So we can show a couple shots of the loader here too. So you can see the items coming through.
In the loader, we distribute the items using 2 hopper carts, which are lined perfectly to distribute them equally. And I guess we will show it. We will show how to put it.
Yeah, let's do that right over here.
Here I put one.
This is Iron setup, so this is his showcase here on how to do this part.
Okay, so first you need to put 2 bars here, 2 chests or honey blocks on the sides, like this. Then you need the rails, preferably normal ones. After that, you just put the 2 hopper cards. Make sure to have some sort of way to stand up here. Place the cards, break the rails beneath them, and then just push them to the corners as much as possible. You can see if it worked using F3 plus B, which perhaps you should activate.
Got it?
And then you can see they are standing 2 pixels apart in the middle here,
Oops, I fell.
and 1 pixel on the hoppers on the side. After this, to make sure they don't go away, I suggest using something like a full block, preferably glass, so you can see the state. Put it something like that.
And I can take these chests out now, right?
Yes, and also the iron bars, remove them so you can push into the cards. Make sure to push them from above to not move the cards, and then just power all the pistons. This way, when you drop more than 10 stacks of items, they will get distributed 99.9% equally.
So that should be the only manual setup you have after pasting the Lightmatic, correct?
Yes, you also need to place the cards
Oh
because
yeah,
they are
the other carts in the queue. So those ones you can just place here, push them up, and place the shovels back into them.
actually with the Lacmatic, you need to make sure that like it doesn't paste items inside of containers as well. So
Good
so
point.
and doesn't paste the content of the sign. So if Raps could show the
The signs
show
and
the amount of
containers.
items.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we got 1 item, 0 items, 1 empty shulker in this dropper here. What else do we
Also
have?
down here for the fuel counter.
No shovel. I think I showed this one already here too. This is just for the shovels. And down here, right,
Day for pulse extender.
12 and 0. And there's a counter on this side as well.
0 and
This
9.
quad hopper counter setup has come in pretty handy for this system.
Yeah, we have used it
Three
3 times
times?
already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which has 9 items and 0 items.
And I think we also have, yeah, we place an extra shulker just down below here, just in case. I think it's more of
We
a,
need it
yeah,
because this is the shulker that gets filled, and the empty shulker that we have buffering over here is optional actually. Perhaps could you come? The shulker here is optional because using this block, we are locking the hoppers. So so if you want less hopper locking, uh, but use one less shulker, you can just remove this block and that will be and it will go down, be dispensed, and this system unlocks the hopper. Here, this system unlocks the hopper when the items fall using a string on the face of the observer, which lets the shulker inside of the dropper. And by keeping the hopper locked, we again reduce lag by quite a bit.
yeah, there's only very few unlocked hoppers throughout here. I think this one here is unlocked.
And also 200 of them when the system runs.
Oh, just in its default state.
Yeah,
This
but
one.
in the V2, we will make sure that most of them will be locked when it also runs.
Yeah, the idea here is that we continue to evolve on
I-
this thing. So we're absolutely looking for community input as well. I'm hoping that people get a chance to download the Lightmatic and play around with this thing, and maybe even see to what limits it can be pushed. I also envision this as a single module of a much larger array potentially. You could have, 4 of these things running side by side with a distributor for your fuel and your shulker inputs to run it across multiple units. So you could be running these things concurrently, um, and getting a better throughput of items to smelt. I haven't
Um,
gone that far yet to do that, so maybe someone in the community can come up with that. Sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
uh, um, as Scallion explained beforehand, we use planks or logs, but you also need one plank or log in each of the furnaces to make sure we have items when it starts running. And don't worry, when it finishes running, it will still have that one plank as a leftover.
Yeah, good call out. I actually forgot about that. I'm gonna clear the furnaces and filters or furnaces and droppers here.
No, the button doesn't.
Uh-oh, what's
I
the
the It cleared the one in the testing area.
Oh, it doesn't actually work here. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I would normally do is if that was cleared, I would just come back here and quickly break and replace this activator rail here. That'll
And
trigger to send a cart, and it'll just queue up the next one.
if you can't break it fast enough, just break it, remove the observer, and put it back, then place back the observer.
Right. Do you want to talk about the dispenser system for the droppers here?
Oh yeah. So it's not a dispenser or droppers actually to make it cheaper, but it doesn't matter in the end.
Hmm.
So what we're doing when we reach a count of 9 items in total between the two droppers, we propagate a signal through all the way to the end. And here we have a small so-called engine that pulses both sides of droppers exactly 4 times, but add, adds an extra pulse to only one of the sides, and the extra pulse switches between the two to make sure we get all the items. So this way you have a 5 and 4, then then again 5 and 4, resulting in 18.
Alternating sides. So in one
Yeah,
run, it'll be 5 drops here, 4 drops here. On the next cycle, it'll be 5 drops here, 4 drops here.
exactly. So this way we get out the items really fast, and and I will not say the most reliably, but it does work very good.
Yeah, so the signal comes from that counter here down through the bottom, and then the dropper signal comes back through on either side here, just to the sides of the packed ice. And I think we decided this has to be packed ice. Is that correct?
Yes, because the items need to get there fast enough. If you decide to not use packed ice, you'll have to add delay in the E4 pulse extender you can see here on the other side. You will have to add more delay for the items to reach fast enough if you're not using packed ice. Or let me correct myself. If you're not using packed ice, you need more delay because they come slower.
Right.
So this way, when all the items get here and get aligned on 1 pixel, you using the chest, which can also be replaced with honey, but it's slower. This way, they can be on both cards at the same time, and 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 then we launch them across to hit an anvil at the bottom of it. Which, if you look well, let me get a block out. If you look really good, you can see there's a gap of 2 pixels on the bar. And because items are 4 pixels wide, they will again be on both hopper cards, but will only stand on 1 pixel on both because of how we need to align them, which makes it perfect.
Yeah, and this was a big key distribution system for those hopper minecarts below there that Iron set up. So uh, I'm pretty amazed overall at the work we've done here, and super thankful for Iron's contribution to this whole thing. And this would not have been able to have been made without him. So thanks, Iron.
No problemo. Oops.
So I think that's really it for our super smelter. I'm super interested to see what the community can do with this thing. We have plans to build it on the Chaos Tech SMP once it goes into reset in the new year. We'll be building this thing out in practice and see how it works um, in a survival world.
And don't forget, V2 will come sometime, ho hopefully soon. because the V2 will have a lot of improvements over this system.
That
Oh,
is
also,
our plan.
this system is 1.12 and above. We did not test it in 1.11 and not below that. Only 1.12 up to 1.16.
So again, thanks YouTube. Sorry this one took so long to get out, but we wanted to make sure that it was in a well enough functioning format before we started showing this thing. It's gone through a few iterations just to get it here, but we're really calling this one V1. Even though it's gone through a couple cycles to begin with, we'll consider those previous ones prototypes. So again, really happy with the final product on this. I'm hoping the community is happy with this thing as well, and this is our Khaos Forge. So thanks again, Iron. Appreciate the collaboration on this one. I look forward to V2, and thanks again, YouTube, and have a great day.
Goodbye.